And Don Pinnock's from Usiko, and they work with youth in trouble with the law specifically. He was instrumental in the writing of the Child Justice Act as a criminologist, and went on to found Usiko to provide options for youth diversion, so that young people in trouble with the law didn't need to end up in prison and in effect being criminalized for the rest of their lives. Being given, for young people to be given an opportunity to rise above their circumstances, recognizing the tough circumstances that many, if not most, young people grow up in South Africa today. So, Don, why is wilderness important to social development in South Africa?
Tanya, that's a huge question. I mean, wow, drop a bomb, hey? You know, we've become urbanized, and for me, I deal with high-risk kids. That's been my focus. And these kids are so far away from they have wildness in themselves, and they live in a wild urban situation. But the calm of wilderness is the counterpoint. I've always felt that. You know, I went on a wilderness trail, and it changed me. It really was a powerful process. And, you know, I was a historian and a criminologist till then, and I became a person who writes biological science stories and wilderness stuff. That's how big it was. And I could see the reason and use that would be for kids. I think we've lost wilderness in the urban situation. And I think in losing wilderness, we've lost a calm space in ourselves. And particularly kids who have very little going for them. It's very difficult for them to find that calm space. Yeah, I was part of the drafting of the Child Justice Bill, which became the Act, and then produced a program which would take kids into the wilderness. So the first part of it was experimental. Would these things work in that way? Usiko has been running now we started 15 years ago. We've taken kids through, it comes from the stories. You know, the storytelling at the end of the day that the kids do tells you what they feel, what they've been through. Like the one guy who said, just in passing after the process, he said, you know, I was a child at the bottom of the mountain, but when I got to the top, I was a man. You know, little things like that, they have a transformation happens. And really, if you don't have that transformation, you're stuck. You're stuck in your old ways. And the transformatory process has been proved over and over again over the years with countless stories that we have with these kids. We've got kids who were in the streets touting guns who ended up going through university getting degrees. And they all go back to that experience. Changed me. That's what they say. One of the things is fear and the overcoming of fear. If you have fear, then you become fearful. If you're a kid in a rough township, you mask your fear by becoming fearful and fearsome. And fear is used very badly in that context. In the wilderness, fear is used positively. Overcoming a fear is an incredibly powerful thing. You were scared, you're terrified, you didn't know what was happening, and you overcame it, and you're powerful again, but you're powerful in a different way. You're not empowered in your power over people, you're empowered in your power over yourself and your own fears. That's the first thing. The second thing is you always go into the wilderness with mentors. And these are, especially young men, you know, a young man growing up without an older man admiring him is being hurt. I think Robert Bly said that. And so the mentoring in the wilderness is the second powerful thing. And the third powerful thing is that wilderness becomes a ritual. And adolescents love ritual. Kids in gangs are going through rituals. Kids with their cell phones are going through rituals. On Facebook, so there's a certain level of ritual. What we do is we take those rituals and we work with the kids. And those rituals become metaphoric transformation of themselves. I was talking to Tony Naidu, who's one of our trustees, and he was talking about the psychological impact of those transformation processes and how they just snap like that. You know, people they just get it, as somebody was saying today. They just get it. It's hard to say exactly how it happens, but they do. training's everything, Tanya. I mean, you know, if you take, you can get the wrong people. You can get somebody who wants to be powerful, and they want to be powerful over kids, and they take them into a wilderness situation or a stressful situation, and they become the hero. And these are unresolved guys. They shouldn't be near kids. The right person in the right job has to be the right person in themselves intrinsically, but they also need training. We desperately need to train people who can take young people through the adolescent process into adulthood. And that's what really interests me. I think that I've learned from very good mentors. I'm very lucky, and hopefully can be in some way a mentor. But the really powerful mentors for the kids that I'm interested in, kids in the rough areas, are people from those rough areas. We train mentors from those areas. It's mainly men, older men who've been through rough places. Some of them have been to prison, but they have that empathy for the kids. And that process is, wow, that kind of training. You take these people and you put them through a training program, they can save a community. Well, I don't. I mean, what we did is with the Wilderness Foundation and with various other people, Stellenbosch University and Duco, we got together as a group of elders, if you like, of sort of wise old men and women who could put together a program based on, I suppose, the program that I started. And we got funds and we subcontracted. Hearts of Men came out of our process. Justico Stellenbosch came out of our process. Basically, we created the technology and process and took it into the community, and community people themselves run it. And we're the watchdogs of process, because there's a lot of safety issues there. There's a lot of ethical issues. If you get somebody who has got a religious bent and they've got a whole lot of young people and they want to lay their trip on somebody, whatever the religion is, it's a disaster, because it doesn't allow the authentic experience to come through of the kids themselves. Everybody has their own religious experience, and if you put somebody else's religious experience on you, you don't get it. It doesn't happen. Well, I'm not making a general case. Every case is different. In one community, there was a request from a school that kids were getting out of control, and they knew that we were an organization that dealt with kids. That was the beginning of Justico Stellenbosch. Hearts of Men came from a different direction. It was still schooling, but it came from community organization request. The school in Stellenbosch, it was a fascinating process because we were still young and training ourselves even. And there were 12 kids in the school who were causing mayhem. There was graffiti everywhere. The kids were causing trouble. They were smoking dope and stuff like that. And we took these 12 kids in as our first project. We put them through wilderness training and life skills training. And after 3 weeks, something of a record, hey, after 3 weeks, they called the school together. And maybe it wasn't the response we expected, but they said to the school, we catch you doing graffiti, we're going to fuck you up, okay? And if you don't work, you're getting nowhere. You better listen to me, and we're in control here. We've always been in control. Now, get rid of the graffiti, start working now. And in fact, the principal came to us and said he doesn't know how this happened. One of the main guys who works in Stellenbosch for Justico was the janitor at that school. He's now a highly trained wilderness mentor. He was so impressed with this process that he kind of came on board. So, that's the different ways of getting into a community. Each has its own needs. Hearts of Men started with 13-year-olds. We started with 16-year-olds. Each process is different. There are girls' groups as well, because the girls were, and it's very different with girls. Girls internalize stuff, boys externalize stuff. I know it's a cliche, but you're dealing with chaos on the outside with boys and chaos on the inside with girls. All the processes are different. Government agencies need to get off their arse and use the legislation that they have to do what that legislation says it should be doing, and they're not doing it. The Child Justice Act is a very good piece of legislation that allows for diversion, allows for government funding of community organizations to do this kind of work. But they've wrapped themselves up in bureaucracy. They have rules for getting organizations accredited that no organization can do. You know, it subcontracts massive bureaucracy onto NGOs, which NGOs don't have. So really, I think that, you know, the authorities, the government at national and local level, need to look very carefully at who can do what best. And they are not the best always at doing that kind of work. They should be the funding agencies of the people who can do the kind of work. And that really, there's a youth development plan in the Western Cape that's being put together. I have some hopes for that. I'm kind of been asked to be part of that process. But my advice to them is always be the monitoring, be the funding, but let the people who know how to do the work. And it's not government. It's very seldom government. Government is a way of bureaucratizing everything out of existence.
You know, you've worked with that.
Yeah. You know, we've trained people who've trained other people. You need where does anybody get trained? Where do the trainers who train the trainers learn? Not everybody is...